Imagine realizing that the story you've been telling everyone and yourself isn't the full truth, and you just used it to justify what happened. This person used this story as an excuse, a way to spin it, a way to flip things around. But right now, they're starting to realize they can't ignore the truth anymore. They're seeing themselves from the way you saw them. So today, we're going to look at how did they realize they became the villain in your story and what exactly it's doing to them. So take a moment to choose your card with me. We have pile number 1. We have pile number 2. We have pile number 3. And we have pile number 4. As usual, we do have some love oracle cards here that will add into our readings. So take a moment, meditate on the cards, follow the timestamps. While you're here, like and subscribe so we can continue growing, and let's get into it. Pile 1, this person's remembering like one specific time where they took it too far. They said something too rude. They did something too nasty. It was like specifically where they crossed a line and it was something they couldn't undo. So pile 1, this is someone who took things one step too far. But in the moment, they were justifying themselves. They're like, she pissed me off. She cornered me. She embarrassed me. She humiliated me. She pushed me to this point. But now, like that they're kind of thinking about it, now that they're calmed down, they're like, oops, I think I kind of egged her on. And it's like they're realizing what they said they can't take back, especially here with justice. Because it was you just trying to be understood. So whatever it was, you guys, let me know in the comments, because this person's very uncomfortable. They're like sitting there in their car, laying awake, and suddenly they're back in that conversation with you, like back in that same energy, back in that version where, or that moment where they did whatever they did that was too far. But like with 3 of Wands here, this is them thinking their ego is more relevant than how they reacted. They're like, I was justified. I was pushed here. But then on the flip side, at nighttime, they get softer and they're like, oh, I'm looking for justice. So it's like their feelings feel so uncomfortable because there's guilt, but it has like a specific time, a scene, attached to that guilt. And the part they're not saying to anyone is they're embarrassed by who they were in that moment. You got Lovers and Strength. This person's not ready to say it out loud yet or bring it up. And like literally, they'll probably avoid that conversation completely. Like they'll change the topic if you're there. Because bringing it up means like feeling again. And feeling means admitting that they were wrong. So if they feel it, then they'll admit it. And in their mind, it feels like they're challenging themselves in their head. Like this person sees themselves as a good person, a fair person, especially with justice. And like, I don't think they intentionally hurt people. But this memory, this moment is kind of making it painful and making them question themselves as a character, like questioning their character. This person needs to figure out what they're going to do with the guilt, and I don't think they know yet. 6 of Pentacles. This is you knowing you don't have to explain that to them anymore. You don't have to explain the situation because they're aware of what it is, guys. So what's going to happen next? The guilt is going to become way too hard for them to ignore, like I said. Like this person's going to be pushed towards admitting it and saying, I'm sorry to you. But it's going to be a moment where they're like, I probably shouldn't have said that to you. Or like, I think I did cross the line and I'm sorry. I think a lot about how I handled that and it was wrong. So pile 1, what this means for you is like, if you were seeking some validation for what happened, if you overreacted, if you did something, this is your confirmation. Like you didn't do anything. This is what they did. So your message is this: don't chase that apology, pile 1. Don't chase that explanation. Like let their conscience do the work. But let's look at some love oracle cards here. Before we get to the love oracle cards, though, you guys, I'm going to just ask you to subscribe and like, because I am trying to grow this channel. So before we close this pile, let's pull one oracle message. I don't know where to start. This is like, I don't want to admit that I was the one that hurt you. They want to say, I replay that moment at night and I cry and I don't know how to solve it. Pile one, they're finally starting to see this from your side. And like pile one, this person, like, this is clear that you are not delusional if you were feeling hurt by whatever happened between the two of you, even if this person may have tried to gaslight you or make it seem smaller than it was. This is definitely something inappropriate that they did or that they took the wrong way. So I just wanted to maybe validate you one more time here and let you know that, okay? So if you guys are into astrology and zodiac signs, the zodiacs that showed up here was Libra, Leo, Gemini, and Aquarius. So if you're ever interested in that, and again, thank you so much for supporting the channel by liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. Oh, and I forgot there was one more zodiac here. It was Sagittarius. So we got Sagittarius here too. Okay, we'll see you in the next reading, guys. Bye. Pile two. What's the story they are telling themselves? Pile two. This person built a whole story about what happened between the two of you. It's a story where they were right. They were the victim. You were asking too much. And basically you were the problem. And that story's coming crumbling down. And they don't know what to do anymore. So, pile two, this feels like someone who rewrote their story so they could be the victim. They did this so that they could be like, oh, she's too emotional. I tried my best. She was too demanding and I had no choice. That's what this feels like. And they're like, poor me, I was misunderstood. And in that moment, it gave them time to not feel guilty anymore and to not have to analyze their own behavior, But I think they had a dream or a mutual friend pushed back and they're like, that's not really what happened. They're finding it's interesting because they're looking back, they're seeing all these details that they kind of left out conveniently. And interesting. With the Five of Swords here, this is them sort of feeling like, wait, did I leave that part out? Was I fair? Did I make them sound worse than they were? So that realization is kind of making them uncomfortable. So hang on here. It's kind of interesting because King of Swords is kind of them being a bit frantic. They want that story to stay. They want to stay intact. They want to believe that they handled everything normal. Like the person who had no choice. Again, that victim, right? But it's obvious because the truth is leaking through. So while they're busy over explaining themselves and they're busy bringing up the situation more than necessary and bringing it up to anyone that will listen just to prove they were right, then it just shows that it's because they haven't fully convinced themselves that they're innocent, like people who feel like they're in the right and don't need to defend themselves don't bring it up all the time. So in their head, they're like bringing up this story so that they can say their version of it. But everything's pushing back at them. The truth, the memories, the dreams, the thoughts, and it's just so obvious to them now. And yes, by the way, you guys, they miss you. And they're realizing that they did sort of misrepresent what happened. So they're asking themselves, if my story wasn't true, then what actually happened? So this is the part that's going to give you justice. You don't have to wait for this story forever. Let them do their thing. They might get quiet. They might go no contact. They might pull back and think oh man, what have I done? But they need that time to process what that means. So I think that will lead to someone admitting that they were kind of not really good in this situation, not fully truthful. And I think they'll be like, I think I made you the problem because I couldn't face this myself. So pile 2, what this means for you is like, you don't need to keep arguing your side and arguing every detail with Page of Cups. Your takeaway is this: let the truth do its work, because you don't need to exhaust what reality already knows. See, this is you being defensive to get your happy family. You don't need to be, because they're just sitting in their pain, realizing what they've done here. They're going to come to you guys. See, look at this. He's going to come to you. Page of Pentacles. This is them. Page of Cups. Immature in their emotions. This is them. Immature, but coming to you saying, I'm sorry still. Like, they can't become mature overnight. But let's definitely get into your love. Oh, you know what? When I went to pick up your cards, Death came out here a bit. That's also Scorpio. So this could resonate with you guys. You know what? While we're at it, let's just get into all the zodiacs that are here if you're into astrology. We have Aquarius, we have Libra, we have Sagittarius, and you have Scorpio, like I said, and you have Virgo, and it looks like that's it. Let's get into your love oracle cards. Before I move on, you guys, I am really trying to grow my channel. Easiest way you guys can help me is by liking and subscribing, if it's not too much to ask. But let's do your love oracles here. All right. So why do I feel so lost? This feels like, why is it that you love me? This feels like I told myself a version of a story so I could get away with being not up to your standards. The story wasn't strength, though. It was them protecting themselves. So it doesn't feel like it was malicious. It was just their way of surviving this breakup, this argument, whatever it was. Definitely let me know in the comments if this resonates, if they pulled back and if they come back. But yes, that's your love oracle message, you guys. Let's get into pile 3 now. Pile 3. This person's finally seeing how deeply they hurt you. But the painful part is they're seeing it a little too late. So at the time, they were disconnected from your feelings. They were ignoring it. But now the empathy's there, but the damage is already done. So pile 3, this feels like someone who did not fully register your pain mattered. It seems like you explained, you cried, you got anxious, you power texted them, you just asked them, like, please understand what you're doing to me. But instead of really receiving that and understanding it, they went numb, they got defensive, they treated you like you were an issue. And I feel like they focused on how uncomfortable they felt instead of how hurt you were. And that's kind of like what's coming around them now. So this person's finally starting to realize the impact of what happened, but it's like delayed, like I said. So now that the sympathy's here, what are they going to do with it, you guys? They're remembering your face, your words, your tone, the way you tried to get them to understand, but they weren't really giving you any of that. So now they're realizing, like, she was really hurting. She was trying to show me something and I didn't listen. So if you just wait here, Princess of Swords, this is an inner conflict between like empathy and protection. So part of them legitimately wants to feel what they put you through, but part of them wants to shut it down because they don't want to face it. Because that part's not easy, right? So this person gets really quiet when your name comes up, the Hermit. It's not because they feel nothing for you. It's because they feel too much and don't know how to say it. They don't know how to defend themselves the way they used to. They don't really know what their argument is anymore because they know it's irrelevant. There is remorse starting to come in, guys. Like, it's not loud. It's not instant, like I said. It's just loud. But in their head, this person's like, they don't have the emotional maturity to deal with this. So when you were hurt, they felt overwhelmed and they took it personally. They minimized it. They avoided it. But now, like, the situation has enough distance, enough time to see what they couldn't hold for you before. And like, they're seeing that it was painful, and they're seeing that their being numb wasn't them being strong. It was just them avoiding taking accountability. So what are they finally understanding? 9 of Coins and Hierophant. Your pain didn't disappear just because they couldn't see it at the time. it waited patiently for them to come around. This is them. Three of Swords and King of Swords. This isn't coming in with a big giant confession. This is like someone becoming more aware of what they lost and what they disregarded. They're going to be like, I actually didn't realize how much I hurt you, and I'm sorry. Like, I see now that I was cold when you needed me to be present, and I'm sorry. So what does this mean on an energetic level? Like, your pain wasn't meaningless. It wasn't invisible. It wasn't meaningless. They just literally didn't have the capacity to see it then. Pile 3, your message is this: release that need to make them understand. Because even if you spoke till your face went blue, they're not going to be able to see it until it's on their terms. But their cards do suggest that they're coming around to see this. So, even if it is late. But we're going to do some love oracles. If you guys are into astrology, I'll tell you what zodiac signs are here. So we got Taurus. We've got, who else is under here? Cancer. We've got Pisces. And Virgo. And Sagittarius. So those are the zodiac signs present here right now. It could be you, yours, your moon, rising, or sun sign. If you guys aren't aware what that is, I can let you know in a separate video. Also, while you're here, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I am trying to grow the channel. But let's get into your love oracles here. I long for your kiss. My life is a mess right now. So, interesting. And their shadow card is it over? This is like, I didn't understand how deeply I hurt you until I let myself finally see it. And I feel like they're going to say, I'm sorry that I left you feeling alone. And honestly, you guys, your hidden message is this: they weren't as unbothered as they came across as. And just interestingly, I had 2 cards here that I didn't pick up. So let's just see if they resonate with you. I wish I could be a different person. You're too nice. I don't deserve your kindness. So those might resonate. I just like to take anything that's kind of a coincidence. They got stuck on the table. But as always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Support us by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. Pile 4. This person keeps trying to play innocent, but I feel like no more. This person dodges responsibility, minimizes, acted like they are dumb. Like they acted like they didn't realize why you were hurt. This feels like someone who's very good at avoiding responsibilities. Like, I think they say things like, you're taking it the wrong way. I didn't mean it like that. I never said that. That's not what happened. You're overreacting. Or like something like that. And if they didn't say it, then they would suggest it. They would switch the focus. Like, suggest it was something else. Like, they would make you question whether you had the right to hurt. You know what I mean? So every time you tried to name what happened, they somehow found a way to turn it around on you. And like, this is a lot of deflection and being gaslit until you were the one apologizing for their disrespect. Like, it's weird. That's the kind of exhaustion I'm getting here. Because every time you tried to hold them accountable, all they focused on was your reaction, not the behavior. But now those consequences are kind of showing up in their life here. I think they're either getting treated the way they treated you, or you've went no contact, or they're just sort of realizing it finally. But whatever it is, they can't keep acting like they didn't have a part in this. But hold on. So Knight of Cups and King of Pentacles. And their inner conflict is between denial and responsibility, because denial's familiar, comfortable, lets them keep that story. Oh, I didn't do anything. But responsibility is like, hey, I'm knocking on your door. They spent a long time telling themselves they were too sensitive. They expected too much. They were the problem. And privately, that inner play in their head monologue is changing, because they're like, I burned this to the ground. I didn't take responsibility. I made them feel crazy for reacting to something I did. And like, that's a heavy thing to carry. But like, are they going to address it? I don't know. So they don't really blame you anymore. Even if they're still on the outside saying that to you, in their head, they don't project everything onto you as the problem. Because you're not even part of the problem anymore. It looks like you've stepped away with Eight of Pentacles. You're not available for them to use as a scapegoat anymore. And this doesn't need to be romantic. This could even be with a friend, a family member. Like, your pullback, your absence is making them realize the part they played in this. So what are they finally understanding? They can only play innocent while you're still close enough to blame. But once you stepped away, guys, the truth had nowhere else to go but back to them. You threw the ball right back in their court. So there's for real apology energy coming here, guys. Like, not like a shitty, I'm sorry you felt that way. Sorry you took it that way. This is the type of apology that requires them to say, I know I made you feel like you were the problem, and I'm so sorry for that. I know I avoided accountability and it was wrong. Or, I know how much I've deflected and I understand why you had to walk away. So pile 4, the reality you tried so hard for them to see is finally on the way. You don't need to like push them to understand, because they're realizing it now. So don't feel like you need to work harder for them to understand, because you stepping away did more than having another conversation would have ever did. So now that you're not taking the blame anymore, they're having to sit with themselves. Now, if you are interested in astrology and zodiac signs, I'll let you know who showed up here. So you got Gemini, you got Leo, you got, is there anyone under here? You got Libra. You got, that's it. That's all you got for major arcanas. Let's get into your love oracle cards. Before we do that, you guys, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, I am trying to grow it. This is a fairly new channel, so your support's appreciated. But let's get into your love oracles. All right, so before we close it off, if I could go back in time, I'd handle us differently. Interesting. This is like, I can't hide behind my excuses anymore. I know exactly what I did, and I'm sorry. I made you question yourself because I didn't want to be questioned myself. I need to hold back my feelings for you. Every time they called you too much, that was them avoiding accountability. Every time they said, I don't believe you, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You know, this person projected, and it's not right. And if you can't forgive them, please do what's best for your heart. So you guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and we'll see you in the next reading. Bye.